if you go through this experience of being dead, which I do it so often, that's like a comedy routine, then you begin to look at it from a completely different point of view. And you have to come to certain conclusions. Struck by lightning, dead for 28 minutes, open heart surgery, brain surgery, open heart surgery, struck by lightning a second time. When you combine all those things together, what happens is you get a real good solid look on the value of who you are. And what has to happen is I became a hospice volunteer so I could study death from the point of view that I could truly look at the things that had happened to me during the near-death experience or the death experience in 1975 could be true, and to be able to benefit people who live in fear of religions and institutions and governments. So by spending 34,000 hours at the bedside with more than 2,000 people and building the Twilight Brigade, I have a pretty good idea and understanding about what these things that are happening to us and around us. I think Nancy's presentation was absolutely fabulous. I think that it was worth getting up this morning. I am very tired and in a lot of pain from having to have this surgery because they had to correct what was wrong with the drainage tubes and the heart surgery. And it was pretty bad inside because I have a lot of damage inside called scar tissue from surgeries and lightning and all of that. So the point I'm trying to make today is as this world is changing, and so much of what Nancy's saying is true, and so much about the first near-death experience that gave me these things that I call the boxes of knowledge, and how I was supposed to go about doing in healthcare and focus on in healthcare, and how I was supposed to do it and how important that was to the beings that I had encountered. So in 1993 with Paul Perry, I decided to write, like most of you know, Saved by the Light, because I was mad, because I saw what had happened to Raymond, Dr. Moody, in the course of what was going on as he was just dealing with that there is a life after death. And he was a philosopher and an MD and a forensic psychiatrist studying near-death experiences, and his own organization, like Nancy was saying, his own group, his own peers, it drove him to depression. So I just decided that people need to pick on somebody their own size. And I decided that was me. So with Paul, we wrote Saved by the Light, and I put in what was the boxes of knowledge, which began to be prophecies and about future events that would occur. What I thought these future events were was a timeline that I should be on in the course of working with people understanding their energetic electrical self, much like Nancy says, and that you are a spiritual being. You are a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. And I decided to focus on people who were in transition because they'd never stopped long enough to energetically interact with this process that you come here. You come for X amount of breaths, and then you design it out as you're going to come. So you're chosen to come and you choose to come. This is how it works, everybody. And it's more important, and it's equal to what Nancy was saying. It's about paying attention to your breathing. It's about finding and getting really focused on breathing and paying attention to that. Because I promise you, nobody dies. That is the funniest, most ridiculous thought pattern that human beings has ever brought or thought about. You are a spiritual being, and you manifest yourself in physical form. And then when you go through the near-death experience, you let go. So you will not die. The greatest thing that deals with the spiritual being, what a spiritual being never has is loneliness, or helplessness. When you let go of this world and you travel back to this next one, whichever one of those levels of consciousness that you came here from, when you go back there, what is going on was that this was a journey that you came on. This was an adventure. This was a chance to practice being a God. Now think of how wild this is when I'm 25 years old and I'm discovering this stuff, not as conclusions, but as though it's being conveyed to me. And then what became the prophecies and the boxes of knowledge that I discussed earlier as a timeline. And when all this starts to synergize, I take a look and realize that if we're chosen to be gods, to practice being a God, and you sit at the bedside, then you discover the wonderment of the beauty of the nature of the human spirit, of the absolute divineness of who we really are, without all this other chaos and crap that's being created. So let's put it like this. If you made a list of everything that you think that God is, or that divine force is, or that divine intelligence is, kind, loving, compassionate, caring, and you made a list, and then you stop and think about how many times per day that you get a chance to be what you just put on that list: compassionate, caring, loving, supportive, listening. You get those chances all day, every day. So now here's what you have to deal with after being struck by lightning: that you are a spiritual being, that you choose to come here and you were chosen to come here, and nobody dies. And all that rubbish that you get taught about, other than taking care of yourself, which is what my drive is to take care of yourself. Because the world that we're entering now will not care about taking care of you. And the whole point about where we are, I have always said since 1975, when I was struck by lightning, that the battle for the souls of humankind would be fought in healthcare. Please do not forget what I just said. Okay, and if you see Saved by the Light on chapter 5, box 12, I describe exactly where we are now, about where this virus is and where this vaccine is, which is not a vaccine, it's a gene therapy. And I have watched this for 45 years, and I have entrenched myself in healthcare. Mostly because I had to, because being struck by lightning did a lot of damage inside of me, kidneys and my heart and my back. So I guess I always have to be everything or go through everything that people I'm at the bedside with, so I can understand and empathize with them as they make their transition from this world back home. So everybody's going to be a hospice volunteer sooner or later. So you need to listen to what I'm telling you and really pay attention to Nancy, because this body is the vehicle that you have to use while you function here to achieve the goals you set for yourself. Okay, but remember what I said earlier. In the realm that you come from, the term loneliness and helplessness does not exist. But there are two terms that we take on when we're here. We take on helplessness and we take on loneliness. The combination of those creates despair. And that's where a lot of us find ourselves now. Okay, so that being said, and that being the reality, the point of it is fear, being afraid. Do not be afraid of dying, because it will never happen. It is never going to happen. You will never not be you. Now, what the funny part about that is this. That just made forever a whole lot longer. Because if you're going to be you forever, think about it. So let me tell you something else that happens when you, as a spiritual being, leave this realm. And I'll tell you how it happened to me this last time. And on October the 14th, 2018, I had an aneurysm under my heart.
Приятно было. Ну, дядя, включайся.
Somebody's mic is on. And I had to have open heart surgery at 68 years old. So I went through a fourth near-death experience, which I'm still trying to piece together because it was about harmonies and rhythms and frequencies. And it was showing me how the body works in an energetic pattern that Nancy describes, but just in a separate energetic pattern. And also some of the things that have occurred in the past that I missed, and some that happened that I didn't see. Because, you know, it's hard to live a life and to search for these phenomena. But to understand that we're spiritual beings is the most important thing that's going on right now. So if you start to pay attention to your breathing, equal to everything else that's going on in your life, and you realize that fear is the driver, to be afraid, to be scared to death of death. And that is the driver why you will get a vaccine. I think the thing that's remarkable to me about the vaccine, and although I forecast this in 1975, that there would come a time that there would be a wealthy person who would come based on some development of chip technology that literally would give them the control of the world, and that they would choose to create a vaccine and a virus that would be able to carry and hold your information and to link you to systems almost like an Ethernet around the world. That was 1975. That's pretty crazy, okay? That's pretty crazy in 1975 when you're paralyzed and trying to learn to walk and feed yourself. And that was so far in the future. But nonetheless, that's where we are today. And I don't want to talk bad about the Gates Foundation, but he fits the description. So if that's occurring, then our healthcare and the control of our healthcare, whether it's the lack of food or how you control your diet or how processed food is manufactured or what is organic or all that stuff, you have to be sincerely mindful of all of that, everybody. You have to be sincerely mindful, because if you're not, because of the energetic patterns that are being created, because of what's really happening as the world has changed, like a new age has come, like I'd say like the Mayans said in December 21st, 2012, that this new age was born. That's what the Mayas said. And they're pretty smart about understanding phases and the astrological movement of what's going on. And so with all that energetic shift and pattern, paying attention to your healthcare, which was what I was supposed to talk about and be about and live in and study, and that people should not be afraid of death, because death, the fear of death and what we see in healthcare, that you can prolong people longer than they're supposed to stay because we understand the chemical nature of physiology. Well, in understanding that, everybody, that doesn't change a damn thing about whether you're a spiritual being or not. It doesn't change anything about whether you should listen to the nature of your spiritual self, pay attention to your breathing, do what Nancy says, and ground yourself, and get a hold of that you're being played. You're being played of fear of death, which is something that never, ever happens. Never. Okay, so now, what do you have to look forward to just in case you think you're going to die? What most people who have near-death experiences talk about all the time is this. You're going to have a panoramic life review. Now, I have had 4 of these puppies, okay? The worst part about a panoramic life review is it doesn't pick up where the last one left off. 1975, struck by lightning. 1989, open heart. 1978, struck by lightning again. 1989, open heart surgery. 1997, brain surgery. 2018, open heart surgery. And each of those were one of these kinds of experiences, but it's about me understanding and seeing. And I don't take it like some awesome, overwhelming event. Somehow I have signed on to be dead or go through this so that I understand that I'm telling you the truth, and that I understand pain and understand what suffering is, but I also understand what intent is and what desired outcomes are and how you focus to achieve those goals. And right now, everybody, what we need to focus on is paying attention to our healthcare. I have to deal with it from being struck by lightning, but we have to deal with it in lifestyles. We have to look at how we focus on ourselves, what we look at, how we eat, and most important, how we're breathing, and paying attention to the purity of the air. Because when you're so afraid of breathing, then they shallow your breath using fear. And you don't take those necessary, deep, loving, divine, spiritual breaths as often and as regular and as intentional and as focused with the desired results. I take breaths and I have gratitude for everything that I eat, every glass of water I drink, that I appreciate it and I'm thankful. I'm also thankful that each and every one of you are here. I'm sincerely thankful, and I love you with all my heart. And I appreciate you because you're like me. You're dedicated to getting the truth out and look at it from every option and trying to make the right decisions in our life in a world that's crazier than hell. Okay, so let me tell you the next ring. So as you're dealing with all this stuff that's going crazy and the world's going nuts, and when you leave this world, here's the deal. You will have a panoramic life review. You will see your entire life pass before you in a 360-degree panorama. This is how it happened to me. Everybody has their version, but I've seen this 3.5 or 4 times. And I've probably talked to 130 people who've been resuscitated. And I've talked to thousands approaching in transition and events and things that happened to them along the way. So it's not just Dannion talking about Dannion's experience. It's talking about how the mechanisms of leaving this world works. None of it includes that you die. None of it. Okay, so when you see your life pass before you in a 360-degree panorama, remember, there's a higher you, a more aware you, a more conscious, loving you watching you. Nobody knows more about you than you do. So no one could judge you better than you. All the stuff about God and that God's going to come and judge you and St. Peter and the pearly gates and all that stuff. I hear some people say that as they describe it or try to find language to describe what happened to them. Because all you have is religion. Now we have quantum mechanics. But in the early years, all we had was lit religion. But you're going to see yourself, the whole thing pass before you. You're going to watch it from a second person point of view as if you were your own best friend. And you get to see how really wild and how you looked at things and some of the dumb things you did, but also a lot of the really good stuff you did. It's the little tiny things that you do, the little loving, caring things that you do that really matters. It's what gives you sustainability, gives you power, gives you insight, gives you love, gives you grace, gives you compassion, and gives you the ability and the will to put that forth and out there. All right, so when you watch it from a second person point of view, you get to see, as if you were your best friend, you get to see a really funny side of you. And then you literally become every person that you've ever encountered. And you feel the direct results of your interaction between you and that person. Now, listen to this, everybody. When you feel the direct results of your interaction, you're going to be them. What does that tell you? Nobody gets away with anything. And you are responsible for yourself in this life. No doubt about it. And when you become everybody, it's about your intention. What that action was caused, because I had a, as much as you know, I had a really insane. You know, I grew up being a bad boy. All right. And so what I wanted to do once I had seen who we are, and that's who we are as spiritual beings, was to change. And I got a chance to see the difference between the people that I harmed, or my intention was to harm them for a lot of different reasons, or ego or narcissism or bullies or all that, to a place where I try to understand how they got where they are and what they're doing, and how I can help find value in their lives, and how I can help them find closure in hospice. So I got a chance to be both, the bad part, but I got a chance to be that person looking up in my face, and I'm holding their hand and they're frightened. And I know what's next, and I'm calm about it. And I have no fear about any of that. It's all the reasons of what everybody thinks happening. You're so happy to go home, you don't know what to do. You have no idea. This one's in the can. I'm out of here. And when you lift out of your body, all that pain and all that stuff goes away. I went from burning, on fire, paralyzed, and blind, struck by lightning, to lifting up out of my body, no pain, no burning, and I could see what was going on. Keep in mind that when I came back into my body some 28 minutes later, I still couldn't see. It was blurred, and any light burnt my eyes. So I'm telling you facts about what happened to me. But the key is when you know that this is just and fair, and everybody's going to be everybody. My joy in watching what's happening to America and the world in this flu virus, and the battle for the souls of humankind will be fought in healthcare, because the nature of this system is to create a pattern that blocks our ability to touch our divine selves. It's like consumerism, and who has the most, who dies with the most toys is who wins. All that mindset. Okay, that's the game. That's the nature to drive us away. The other day, a doctor, Dwight, told me about some guy who predicted this in 1905, that they would create a vaccine that would do that. And I don't remember his name, but I remember that was so much about what I saw going on now and where we are now. So if you've seen the future and you know it's not carved in stone, and you being here is considered a hero, you took a divine mission to come and be present, to think yourself to be a physical trapped being that deals with loneliness and helplessness, so that you could see how divinely you operate and the directions that you take yourself, and for the reasons why you do it. So if no one's going to die, and you're going to see your whole life pass before you in a 360-degree panorama, and you're going to watch it from a second person point of view as though you were your own best friend. And then you're going to literally become every person that you had ever encountered, the good and the bad. And you know, you did a lot of good things, even though when you left it, you thought you did bad, but what happened was for the good, for your reason of trying to do it. People get into fights trying to get people into rehab, and it breaks up families, and you're trying to save it. You think it's your fault that it all got broken up because you tried to care, and now you're getting yelled at for it, okay? Well, when all that happens, you are the hero in it. You're the person that took a chance to try to save someone from themselves. You're the person that was brave enough. And for you who do nursing and doctors and hospitals and hospice, come on. You're willing to face the fragility of life, and to embrace the spiritual nature of those people, unless you get trapped. And the only way that traps you is not paying attention that you're a spiritual being, not paying attention to your breathing, and not living in fear. So what I think is the thing that bothers me personally today the most of all the things that I see, okay, because I deal with veterans. I'm an old Marine, and I deal with veterans, and I deal with the VA because I watch how the systems work. And as I look at this, when I heard that they were planning on defunding the VA. That the VA's funding is appropriate every year, and it's a gigantic system. The VA healthcare system is gigantic, everybody. It's the largest healthcare system in the United States. And it's about veterans and a promise that was made that they would be taken care of. It's been modified many times and changed many times. And when the draft was in existence, a lot of people went and did what they were supposed to do, whether they wanted to do or not. Okay, so if they follow through with defunding the VA, it's what they defunded to do with that money, to take money away from veterans and what they're going through. And the suicide rate of veterans is up 20% more since this COVID business started. And the average age is probably 54. So if they're doing a defund that, and that does happen, and I've heard it said, I haven't proven it myself, but I've heard it said, and I see writings about it, then whatever we're letting happen, we have it coming. Because when you take away the rights or the support that you made a promise when you put your life on the line for this country, and guys standing up around the Capitol now, that you're going to affect their health care. Well, I think that's the turning point for all of us to realize that we have to get focused and get participating in the political system, or we will be in a healthcare system that would be modeled much like the VA. If you look at what it looks like in the affordable health care plan and how the cost of that, and you look at it and you look at the VA as a possible potential of a model for this movement of the affordable health care plan, then by watching that, you'll know whether I'm right or not. And if I'm right, then you better pay attention to your breathing. And if I'm right, you better pay attention that you're a spiritual being. And if I'm right, you better pay attention that you will not die. And you better pay attention to this. You were chosen to be here. And then you chose to come. Because you are the difference divinity makes. With your reasoning for being here, which you'll only know once you go back. Can't know what the reasoning is till you go back. But you'll know why you chose to come. But you can trust me, it was something heroic. It was something about greatness. And it was something that divinely was so inspiring that you would give up your treasured gift of never being helpless and never being alone. Always feel connected and always feel sensually loved. To come here to participate in the evolution of whatever this dimensional reality is and to participate. It's a job. And there's two purposes. You have to maneuver and function in this reality. And you have to bring and keep yourself as cleansed and as open and as healthy so that power of the divine can flow through you into this world. Flow through you into this world. That's the real job, everybody. And to keep your intentions in a loving presence, to be supportive and caring about those things going on around you, and not to isolate into I, but always keep we and us as your first point of perspective. And you'd be amazed why you were chosen to be here. And the divine greatness of that you were chosen to be here. And I am proud of myself in a lot of things and not so proud of myself in others. But I'm proud of everybody that's on this Zoom call, on this Sunday morning, making a difference in each other's lives. And I appreciate every single one of you. And I am tired and I am in pain. So I'm going to go lie back down. And And I don't know where Mark is, but listen, everybody, you are the magnificence. You are the daring, courageous. And I wrote it in Saved by the Light, at Peace and Light, Secrets of the Light, 10 Things to Know Before You Go. You are a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. The only thing that could ever go wrong is you allow something to affect your dignity, which skews your direction and your purpose. So do not look at what's affecting your dignity, what's affecting it, what's controlling, what's manipulating you, and create an intention that changes. And then formulate a desired outcome, to desire an outcome, and go for it. You'll be amazed that if you keep your intentions and you're paying attention to your breathing, and you put the nutrition in your system, like Nancy was saying. I'm a big junkie about trace minerals, everybody. I believe that trace minerals, 66 base trace minerals, and I believe that vitamin B complex time release and the vitamin supplement, but vitamin B complex time release is imperative in your function every day. I'm not going to brag, but I have successfully 4 times gotten up from the dead. And in 2018, I had 12% heart function when I went in that surgery. No one wanted to do the surgery. And this little Vietnamese doctor came in and she knocked it out, and she got inside of there, and there was so much damage, not from cholesterol, but from the aneurysm and from the defective valve and first open heart surgery and all the scar tissue in there. When she came out of the emergency room, my Catherine was there, my brother and my sister, because they come to tell me goodbye. But what I learned and I saw, there was nothing going to stop me from getting up. There was nothing. And when I got from the operating room into the intensive care unit, I had no pulse, no respiration, no EKG, okay, no blood pressure. And this nurse, he'd just done a 12-hour shift, and he was getting ready to leave, and he turned around and looked at the monitors, and he said something told him that I needed to live. And he came back in there, and he stayed another 2 hours till he got my blood pressure into the 40s. And then
I remember you only had a certain amount of heart function at that time.
I was less than 10%.
Yeah, I remember.
So what I'm trying to get to, Mark, is everybody has to get a grip on that the world is changing and we're being lied to and manipulated. But they need to pay attention to who they are as a spiritual being. And they need to pay attention to the fact that I've successfully got it from the dead, thinking the crap I think and doing the things that I do. And I appreciate and love every single one of you.
It's hard when you don't get the time to do the things you gotta do.